Hello everyone, welcome back to MixbusTv. Hope you're having a great day. Another rapid fire Q&A. Before we start, please check the info box down below for my mixing courses, a bunch of plugin discounts, and if you want to support the channel, we have t-shirts, we have a Patreon page. I don't know how to read that name. You will see it on the screen. Does analog EQ hardware also cause phase shift or just happens in digital EQ? I feel responsible for this question because obviously there's a little bit of confusion, and I think it goes back to my infamous video on HPF filters, that the filters cause phase shift and all that. So I want to say a couple of things first. Phase shift in equalizers is not a problem per se, and I will expand on this in this video. So it's normal. That's how EQ work. EQ work by shifting the phase. As for the question, it also happens in analog EQ. Well, actually, the only way not to have phase shift is in the digital domain, is with linear phase EQ, which are exclusively digital EQ. Any analog EQ will always cause phase shift. That will tell you that phase shift is not a problem. That's just how EQ works, okay? But it's funny because some people are probably under the impression that is the plugins that cause phase shift. No, actually, all analog EQ cause phase shift, and there's no way to avoid that. And there's no reason to avoid that. The only way to avoid it is to use a linear phase EQ again, which is exclusively only in the digital world. That kind of phase shift only becomes a potential problem, something you need to be aware of because of the modern era of mixing, because of DAWs. Because we have basically unlimited number of tracks, unlimited aux buses, effect buses, parallel channel, this becomes a problem if you start EQing things in parallel. At that point, the phase shift due to EQ can be potentially a problem, because as we said in previous videos, if you, let's say, parallel your kick drums and send it to a compressor, or parallel a drum bus and you send it to a compressor, and then you EQ that, because when you add the parallel compressor, maybe you have too much low end or too much low mid, and you take it out from the compressed parallel channel, that will cause a phase shift with the dry channel. What you do in that case, my advice was always, when you parallel things and you find out that the result, the sum of the parallel channel plus the dry, or the saturated channel plus the dry, has the overall, the sum of it has in the mix too much low end or too much high end, especially the low end, take it out from the source. EQ the source, because by EQing the source, you will subtract, the same frequency that goes into your parallel channel. That's the safe way to do it, because you can't have phase shift if you only EQ the source, because that's what's going to be fed into the parallel channel. So it's such an easy fix. So but I don't know why, and it's not that when you EQ the parallel channel that is gonna be hell or your mix is gonna fall apart, because many mix engineers are not even aware of it. Many professional mix engineers are not aware of it, or they don't think about it, but they just EQ the parallel channel and it sounds fine. Why? Well, because they are so good and they have good ears that they basically compensate for it. A phase shift is nothing. When a phase shift happens because you EQ a parallel channel, you will have some sort of cancellation, okay, at the corner frequency with the dry signal, with the dry source and the compressed parallel channel. You can look at that just as an additional EQ taking place without you seeing it, without you knowing it. Because if there's a phase shift, there's going to be a cancellation. Let's say you removed something at the corner frequency, something is going to happen because of the phase shift that you don't predict. It would be like there's someone else EQing your total, the sum of the two, without you knowing it. If you have good enough ears and enough experience, you will automatically compensate for that. Let's say you have instead of you remove 2 dB in the low end, and the result is you remove 2 dB here and 1.5 dB there because of the phase shift. You will compensate for it. So I overanalyze things, and because I try to teach people, I have to tell them like facts and science behind it. But many people do these things without thinking about it, second nature, because they have a good ear. I do that too. Like, it's not that every time, like, if I need to EQ a parallel channel, I will EQ it. But I know what I have to look for, you know, what the potential problems could be. Because if you're not aware of it and you start EQing and then things don't sound right, you don't know what's causing it, you probably start touching things here and there, and your mix will fall apart very quickly. But if you know why is that happening, you can compensate easily. Or again, if you don't know and you have like amazing ears, you will compensate, you know, automatically without thinking about it. But yeah, that's something that I don't think we can repeat enough, because of like, that video was so popular, and like still people struggle to understand that the phase shift happens. It's not inherently a problem, it's only a problem in certain situation when you parallel EQ. So I think this was a good thing just to repeat. I hope this video was useful. I hope you liked it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like. Post your questions for both the rapid Q&A and the live stream Q&A that we will set up soon, I promise, in the comment. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time.